In the cage of insecurity and self-doubt. In the cage of insecurity and self-doubt. I shake the bars, but there's no way out. I shake the bars, but there's no way out. In the cage of
Hello and welcome. My name is David. During this podcast, I'm going to share a fish tale with you that, well, truly happened. Seriously, there were witnesses and everything. Some years back, I was indulging in frequent, and some would say habitual, mind-expanding activity, just some soul-fulfilling nature therapy. But my method of choice was a weekend of camping and fishing. But in my defense, I was left unsupervised, and it was only recreational. Anyway, like many addict anglers do, I had favored fishing holes. But after that day, I have a deeper affinity for one over the others. And you'll completely understand why here shortly. My now favorite is a mountain lake that is nestled in a bowl of pine, fir, and aspen-covered walls. That particular morning, I started my epic outing with the first signs of light, like I normally would do, and I had been testing the waters from the banks long enough for the morning dew to have just completely dissipated off the water surface. During which time, I was watching the other wildlife stir and begin its day, when suddenly I'd gotten a heavy strike on my line. Quickly, I set my hook, and just before the line went running off my spool too. After about 30 seconds or so, a beautiful 16-inch rainbow trout breached the water surface in a dolphin-like aerial display. During the following minute or so of tethering this magnificent fish, it made several more jumps from the surface. And during all that commotion, unbeknownst to me, perched in a tree over my right shoulder, about 15 feet behind me, was an osprey. And I'd noticed several of them diving for fish out further in the lake, but didn't really give any thought to their presence. Just about the time I got my little monster about 12 feet from the bank, 15 feet maybe, I caught this missile-like flash in my periphery, just feet off my right shoulder. It was close enough that I could feel the wind from the wings actually blow on my face. And before I registered that thing just went shooting by me, there was this huge crash on the surface of the water as that lurking osprey swooped in and pilfered my fish. And in the blink of an eye, that sneaky raptor and my trout went soaring up into the blue sky, along with my fishing line as it continued to unspool off my reel. After about 50, maybe 60 feet of line in what seemed like an eternity, I thought to make a last-ditch effort in trying to reclaim my fish before accepting defeat and cutting my line. So I had noticed in the briefest glimpse that the osprey had not yet turned my fish head forward to get its talons around it to secure it in its grasp. So I gave a little subtle desperate tug on the pole. I can only guess that my desperate tug had coincided with the timing of that osprey's turn maneuver, because my trout made a glorious swan dive back into the water. Immediately I started to realize this deflated exhilaration escaped from me, thinking that me and my fish had just encountered a mortal violation, when instantaneously that die-hard trout made another jump and then proceeded to torpedo back into the deep water, again running my drag. I continued to maintain some control over my miraculous fish, and I kept scanning the sky for another surprise attack from that opportunistic osprey. Within a short period of time, I managed to collect my trout and guide it into my neck so I could inspect the damage from that attack, and I could not believe it. After a thorough inspection, there was not a single puncture wound on that beautiful fish. As I often do, I felt compelled to honor the heroic effort of this trout and release him back into the deep to fight another day. And as I did watch the trout swim back into the water, I glanced down the bank toward 3 other anglers. The expression on their faces was priceless. Each one of them just drop-jawed. One of them finally, after a few seconds, hollered out, "Did that really just happen?" All I could do was grin. I chuckled, nodded my head, and replied, "It sure did. That was epic." The whole time, I'm thinking, this is the greatest fishing day ever. Thank you for listening. This is a Devand production.